highest number of cases per capita in Washington, Oregon, and California, even higher than densely populated counties like King County and LA County.
Kittitas County was poised to reopen early, go a little quicker than other counties to phase 2 of Washington's 4-phase reopening plan, and then something happened. Enrique, what was that thing that happened, and where do things stand now in Kittitas County?
Right. So the county expected a response to their application last week, but then an outbreak at Twin City Foods in Ellensburg occurred. They closed down the plan and tested nearly 160 of them. And so far, 39 people have tested positive. That's 37 workers plus 2 family members. They're all stable and nobody's been hospitalized. But that does mean that the outbreak broke the streak of no new COVID cases in the county. And part of the application requirements is a low population and 3 weeks of no new cases. Now, that's not to say that the state outright rejected the application, but it put it on hold as the state kind of sees how the county reacts to the outbreak. Part of the application includes a plan for exactly this event and how the county is equipped to respond to an outbreak. You know, how easily it can get and apply testing, how it can isolate people, and how it can implement contact tracing, which we've heard so much about. One thing to note, though, is that not all of these cases involve county residents. A few of the workers commute from Yakima and from Grant counties, and those places are more impacted by COVID-19. In Kittitas County, so far, there have been 44 cases in total.
So I'm glad you bring up Yakima County. I wanted to ask about that. Just to the south there, so obviously very close by to Kittitas County, and it is a very agricultural county. It was not eligible to reopen a little earlier than the other counties. Far from it. In fact, one of the epicenters on the West Coast in terms of cases per capita. Give us a little bit of the dynamics happening there in Yakima County.
Right. So Yakima this week surpassed 2,000 cases of COVID-19. And that's the, like you mentioned, highest number of cases per capita in Washington, Oregon, and California, even higher than densely populated counties like King County and LA County. The thing about Yakima is that it's a very rural place, dependent on agriculture and a lot of long-term care facilities, for example. And that's where a big chunk of those 2,000 cases initially came from, is long-term care facilities. But the main driver of new cases in Yakima County is agriculture and food processing, because that means that there's a lot of people that are essential workers and they're still moving around, going to work. And in these packing houses, people are working in crowded production lines. And so that means a lot of contact with people who are out and about buying groceries, who might bring it to work and who might infect coworkers.
And at some of these packing warehouses in the fruit industry, there have been people who are striking because, well, frankly, they're pushing back against some of the working conditions and the safety measures that are going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of these striking workers are saying and some of the companies that they are affiliated with?
Right. And so these are hundreds of workers that have come out to strike, protesting labor conditions at a handful of fruit packing facilities here. And they all pretty much say similar things, that employers are not providing enough masks for workers or gloves. They're not enforcing social distancing or providing plastic sheeting between workers. They also say they want more communication from their employers. Specifically, they want to know what names of their infected coworkers, because they want to know, did I work with that person who may have been infected? They want to do their own contact tracing, essentially. Another big demand is hazard pay. They want a $2 per hour increase because the cost of living is going up. Kids are at home and they're eating more. They're not eating school lunches, and price of things like beef and pork is going up. Mostly, though, I think the common feeling is fear. They've seen outbreaks happening in Ellensburg and Wenatchee and in meat processors and Toppenish and the Tri-Cities. And so I think these workers are just aware that they're in the front line and that they're more exposed than the general public. And so they want compensation and more protection.
And how have some of these companies responded? We'll note that there's more than just one there in the Yakima area where these strikes are happening. Are they all pretty much kind of responding in the same way from what you can tell, or do any stand out as particularly different on one side or the other?
No, the common response is that they can't get personal protective equipment or plastic sheeting so easily. The thing is, there's high demand from the entire industry for that equipment and from other industries that are on the front line and from businesses that are opening up. Some have also stopped production lines to clean after cases of COVID-19 have popped up. We haven't seen any closures for mass testing as we've seen in Ellensburg and Wenatchee, and I think that's because there's not that much testing to go around. One thing to note, though, is that employers are pointing that they're also suffering from economic pressures from COVID-19 on top of economic pressures they had before from the falling price of apples. So there's a lot going on here and a lot to handle for the companies for them to provide that protection and that hazard pay.
Certainly a lot of dynamics at play, and we thank you for joining us to tell us a little bit about it. Thanks for joining us today, Enrique.
Thanks for having me.
Find more on these and other topics at our website, nwpb.org. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy out there in the unique Northwest.